Hello and welcome to Rockstar Diaries, healing out loud with heart, humor, and harmony. I'm Janine Emily.
I'm Mr. Tracy Lee Smith.
We are Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and we've got Joan Jett here. She's down below, our little dog. But we are so happy to be here tonight. We welcome a man whose life reads like a screenplay, equal parts heart, humor, and humanity.
Mark Steven Porro is an award-winning actor, artist, entrepreneur, and the brilliantly soulful author of A Cup of Tea on the Commode. That's right. A memoir that proves laughter and love can show up even in life's hardest rooms. His story is one of devotion, caregiving, resilience, and the radical tenderness it takes to walk a loved one home.
From movie sets and studios to hospital rooms, from chasing dreams to caring for family. We know that one all too well. Mark shows us what it really means to serve with heart, stand in compassion, and turn the messiest moments into miracles.
Get ready. This conversation will move you, stretch you, and remind you that love is the greatest role we'll ever play.
Welcome,
Here he is.
Mark.
Thank you. I have nothing left to say. Good night.
Oh, when I heard you were an actor and you love comedy, I was like, oh yeah, he has to be on this show.
I'm very shy. I'm normally very shy.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, welcome. We are so happy. Can you tell the world where you are sitting right now?
I live in a little village called Pézenas in the south of France, and it's located in the largest wine growing region in the world. So if you're into wine, it's heaven. If you're not, it's a frickin' nightmare.
Oh, well, I am into wine. I'd love to be, and you're the only person that I know that has ever pronounced my name correctly the first time, Janine.
Wow.
It is spelled the French way, so thank you very, very much. You know what? We just want to jump right in because you have so much brilliance. Let's talk about A Cup of Tea on the Commode. It's not just a book, right? I mean, it's amazing. We've been reading it. It's a call to help people heal through truth, humor, and humanity, right? Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah, I would have to say, I'll give you my little, I guess, my intro. So at 55, I gave up my carefree bachelor life to become a first-time parent to a sharp-tongued, stubborn as all get out, guilt-tripping lady who could barely remember my name, my mother. And it's unusual for a son to take on the 24/7 caregiving. But I jumped in with gusto to fill her last years with love, laughter, and joy. It wasn't always perfect, but I came pretty damn close. And so caregiving normally falls, or unfortunately, it normally falls on the women of the family. And but we're catching up. But it's still about a 60-40 split. And I think my approach was a little bit different. I took kind of a romantic approach, I think, because I grew up with three sisters. And so I learned more than just how to put the toilet seat down. And I had two older brothers and one younger sister. And I had a great relationship actually with both of my parents, especially as we were all adults. And I got to appreciate them as people and not just mom and dad. And so for us, I mean, we grew up in a pretty strict Catholic family, so we learned how to care for others and honor certainly our mother and father. And so when I jumped in to do this stuff, I had the opportunity, I guess, to do it. And I just felt it was the right thing to do. My mom deserved better at that particular time in her life. And so I wanted to make sure that she got it.
Your memoir captures the raw beauty and brutal honesty of caregiving. So what surprised you most about yourself during the season of caring for your mom?
Well, at that time, I was never married. I had no children. So I didn't have a thorough understanding of unconditional love. So that's one of the things I learned, because my MO before that was I would start a project, or even as a kid, I would get up, I would do sports, and then get to a certain level where I felt comfortable, and then I'd get bored and move on to something else. I started a lot of what I called 5 nonprofit companies, though none were intended to be nonprofit. But I gave it my gave it my all. And then when I felt I've learned enough from it and it's not going to go any further, I took that experience to the next project and the next project. But when this incident with my mom came up and I jumped in, there was going to be no walking away. And so I was committed to that, and I asked permission of my mom, which was very important. And so I had her trust, and also the trust of my 5 siblings. And so that was very important.
Here at Rockstar Diaries, we fully believe that music and humor is healing. It rewires your brain totally. And in the book, you have scenes that are laugh out loud, funny, both heartbreaking too. How did humor become a survival skill for you, not just a writing style?
Well, both of my parents were pretty funny, and luckily they passed that on to their 6 kids. And so humor was always a big part of our life. Growing up, and certainly for me, it comes kind of like first nature or so. My parents, they were both pretty strict Catholics, and they didn't have a great marriage at points. So humor at least helped the kids get through some of that. But there was a lot of tension in the house at certain periods. And so, but when they got out of the house, I moved out and just turned 18, went to college, and then never really lived back at home. But they would come out and visit me when I was living in Ohio, and then when I lived in Hollywood. And even when they came out together, they seemed to be a whole different personality. And then when they came out separately to vacation, boy, they were great. They were funny and charming, and they were still pretty funny and charming at home. But I think just because of maybe some of the tension or residual effects in the house, that they didn't let their true personality shine. And for me, whether it's black humor or anything, I look for the funny. But one of my goals with my mother was to make her laugh at least once a day. And she ended up making me laugh quite a bit. She's just a funny lady. So it certainly helped, because, the caregiving job is emotionally, physically, and mentally tough. And anytime you can laugh at any particular moment, it's very helpful.
Do tell, who are some of your favorite comedians?
Wow. Well, if we want to go crazy and extreme, you'd have, let's say, Steve Martin when he did the arrow in the head and on the funny guy thing. Seinfeld is great. And what's funny is actually my dad and I were on Seinfeld during one of his visits to LA. I was working on a project, and my client's boyfriend was a lighting guy on Seinfeld. And we were up all night working on this design project. So my dad was visiting, and so he and the boyfriend hung out in the living room all night and really got along. So the next day he called up and said, "Hey, we have a special VIP walk-on role. Would your dad like to do that?" Now, I was an actor. Anybody that gave you an opportunity to be on Seinfeld, especially, I think it was number 1 at the time, we would jump on it. But my dad paused and thought about it and then said, "Yeah, I like Jerry. I'd like to do that." And so I'm sitting there going, "Are you kidding me?" So we went and did it, and they asked me to join them, but I was a union actor. And so I said, "I can't do this because I want to have an opportunity for a better role." And they said, "Don't worry, our show is not like that. You won't blow your chance just because of this." So my dad and I were on an episode of Seinfeld, and how many people get that opportunity? So I thought that was pretty cool. And that was a year before he passed. So that was a very special moment. So Jerry is always up there. And Soup Nazi is a good friend of mine. Who also loved a cup of tea. So if you can get the soup Nazi to like your book, it's got to be pretty good.
Yeah.
No soup for you. Oh man, Seinfeld. Yes, you have to tell us what episode it is so we could go look for that.
It was called, I think, the Andrea Doria, and I don't remember why. But Kramer, in this episode, Kramer had a cold and he couldn't afford to go to his doctor. So I went to a veterinarian instead.
I remember that one.
And got the medicine and became more and more like a dog. And by the end of the show, which is where my dad and I appear, he comes running out of a store or maybe even the pharmacy, and two cops are out there, and he's like, and they're going, what? You know, what's going on? Is there a fire at the Red Barn or something? And he's going, yeah, okay. And so Kramer turns and leads those cops past my dad and I, who were standing in front of a liquor store. And we came up with a whole scenario why we're at the liquor store looking for a special bottle of champagne. And so you see us in the background, and at the end, you see Kramer frozen on the screen, and we're still in the background. So
Oh, nice.
Seinfeld immortalized me and my dad. So that was very cool.
That is great.
And they treated him like like royalty. They were so loving. My dad was 81 at the time, and they were just very super. You know, I've been on a lot of shows, and sometimes, especially the stars, are not very fun and don't want to engage with the lesser actors. But these guys all hung out, and they were great.
So you played many actor roles, but none as demanding as the role of caregiver. What did that chapter teach you about presence, patience, and what truly matters?
Ooh.
Well, it's interesting. So I had a design career, I guess kind of continues, and my acting career, and those things kind of all came together because in design, you have to have empathy for your client, whether you're designing a machine or a brochure or a website. You have to take the end user in mind. Make sure that whatever you're designing is going to work with them. And so that encompasses empathy. And when you're doing caregiving, empathy is certainly a big thing too. So you have your loved one who's going to be a little slower, a little more fragile, may not have a great memory, but they're still, in my case, still my mom, and deserve respect and deserve to hold on to their dignity. And if that was withered away, bring it back, which I tried to do. And then also because of not having children and stuff, patience was another thing. I had a pretty good understanding of patience, but boy, when you're in those situations, it becomes crystal clear that it's very necessary. And so empathy and patience were a big deal. One of the main things that I advise people who ask, if you're uncomfortable doing anything in the caregiving, whether it's all the hands-on or any of the aspects, because there were no lines that I did not cross. But the acting kind of came into play because I said, this is the role I'm taking on. I'm now a caregiver. I'm the son, but I'm also the caregiver. And I had to get over any of that uncomfortableness and get on with it because I had a job to do. And so that was a bit of the acting. And I never wanted my mother to see that I was uncomfortable or, let's say, grossed out or anything like that, because I didn't want her to feel guilty. I didn't want her to feel like she was a burden. I wanted her to know that I was there because I wanted to be there. There were some moments, she was... She did like the pampering, and sometimes she took the playing, let's say, the princess or the queen a little too much. And I said, I am not, one time she actually rang a bell to summon me. I don't know where she got that bell, but that was the last time she rang that bell. And she also rang it very early in the morning. So I went down to her room, and she's sitting in bed with the little thing, and I'm going, are you kidding me? And she says, what? And I said, did you just summon me with that bell? I most certainly did. And I said, well, I will now take that from your royal fingers, and we will never see this again. And I just told her, I said, listen, I'm here not out of duty. I'm here because I'm your son and I love you. So we don't need a bell. You call, I come. There are some, I think, boundaries or lines you must kind of set up early.
You brought tears to my eyes. I just want to applaud you for a moment. My mother has health challenges and is sick, and my older brother is her caretaker. She's in Washington State. We're in Texas, and it's really difficult being this far away, although we do go there all the time. But I just wanted to do a shout out to my brother Joseph, because especially after talking to you, there is so much that goes along with that. And what you just said right now just brought tears, because it's so true. And I'm so glad that your mother had you. And that acting thing, that to me is epic. It's like you put yourself into a different role. Tracy was a caregiver to his wife, bless her soul, rest in peace, before she died.
Yeah, she had an 11-year bout with cancer.
Wow.
And we had to not only just take care of her, we had to become the advocate for her too, because she wasn't able to know at the time what medicine she was taking, things like that. So we really had to step up, and she would have gone sooner if someone wasn't really there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I applaud you I know your shoes, what you went through, and it's amazing. Yeah. I love that you made it into a book. And you told your story here. It's just awesome. So
he mentioned advocate, and I'd love for you to talk about advocacy, because that is almost like our middle name, is being an advocate on so many different levels. How did it feel coming into a situation like that and being an advocate for your mother?
Well, I don't think I was let's say the total advocate for her at the time, because my brother, who lived nearby, before I moved in there, a lot of this was on his shoulders. So he handled all the family finances and took care of mom's medications. And he would stop in the morning and stop in after work to make sure things were good. We did have a family living in the house that was supposed to keep an eye on her and keep her company. But at that time, she didn't need caregiving. This incident that happened, I think she looked around at her life, and she was living in the house we all grew up in. That was no longer, let's say, our house. It was kind of these people who moved in upstairs kind of took over. And I think my mom was just not happy. And she said, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm out of here. And she kind of willed herself to die. So she was, I called it semi-comatose. I don't know if that's medically accurate, but she was non-responsive for weeks. I think, I have a chapter in the book called The Silent Scream. So I think it was a cry for help, because I don't think she really wanted to die, and maybe this was a ploy just to get everybody back there. But we all came back, and love was back in the house, and eventually she snapped out of it, which was great. So knowing that someone's there and someone that really does care for that person has a huge effect on the whole situation, but definitely on your loved one.
You're watching the Rockstar Diaries TV show.
Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, my team and I are happy to help. We work across all price points and specialize in helping clients relocate from anywhere in the country. Give me a call, 214-708-2450.
So you said this book is more than a memoir, and it's a love letter to caregivers everywhere. What do you hope every exhausted, unseen, overwhelmed caregiver, hears between the lines?
I think by second nature, I always take notes. I never wrote a book before, but I had written short films and screenplays and things like that, and greeting cards and some copywriting and stuff like that. So I always took notes. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. While I was caring for Mom, a friend of mine was just started caring for her father. And so I shared some of my experience and some of the tips and tricks I learned from hospice. Hospice was great. And when this whole thing happened with my mom, the doctor cut off all meds and food and called hospice. And so hospice was there, and usually when they're called, it's not a very good ending. So my younger sister and I hung out with hospice and asked them to teach us, because we wanted to care for our mother as much as we were allowed to, for as long as she wanted to be here, because we didn't know if it was going to be days, weeks, months, or whatever. So we learned a lot of tips and tricks. And so I shared those with my friend, and she got a lot out of it. And I thought, well, maybe a book is certainly something I had more control over, and also something I could get out faster. My first instinct would be, how do I make this into a movie? Which is in the works actually now. I get very emotional when I'm dealing with family, especially. So I couldn't write it for a while. It was a couple of years before, if I came up with something, I would jot it down and kept those notes. And so once I was here, I moved to France a couple of years after Mom passed. In this room is where I wrote the book. And so I had enough emotional distance and also physical distance, and so maybe that helped. And since I hadn't written a book and I knew it was going to be a memoir, I started reading memoirs and studying the craft. And then I actually engaged with a memoir teacher, took a few courses with her online, and then eventually she was my first editor. She gave me some great notes, and then I revised it again. I also wanted to be published. I didn't want to self-publish it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to see if I felt the book was good and I could find a publisher. And I actually had two publishers I had to deal with. And so the one publisher I went with was one that was more concerned with writing quality as opposed to getting it out fast. And so those are the ones that I went with, and I worked with their editors for maybe a year and a half before we released this. And they were great. I had the final say on everything, but we had no big arguments or anything. They liked my voice, and I think they liked the quality of the writing, and it only got better working with these editors and stuff. It's a good book. I don't say it's a how-to book. It's a what I did book, and there are some tips in there that people I think can benefit from. But I also wanted it to be a very entertaining book. I'm happy with the results. It's won a bunch of awards, and the reviews have been lovely. And now there's some interest in Hollywood and making it a movie. So I've written that screenplay, and that's going to start going out to people. So we'll see what happens with that.
I have so much that I want to ask you, like who would play your mother and stuff like that.
Well, I have to be careful, but Meryl Streep was the first that came to mind because I need someone. First of all, she's a Jersey girl, like Mom.
Oh.
And I need someone who can play someone who's in their 90s, but also younger to play in some of the flashbacks. Nowadays, with movie magic, we can take care of that. But that would be certainly my top choice. And there are tons of A-list actors who love their mothers, and I have that whole list. So we'll see what happens. But I think someone might be attracted to doing. I think it would be, a small, intimate, definitely independent type of film.
The other thing I wanted to mention, you talked about quality over just getting it out there. I love that. We're international best-selling authors, but the current piece that I'm working on, I'm working with people that are stretching me. They're really stretching me to get better and better and better. And I've been writing for years. And you're right. It's when you have that mentor or those people that you trust that give you amazing feedback, there's, it turns into more epic quality piece than what you could have done yourself. That's what and we do that with our songs as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I know you're probably dying to ask a question. I've taken up so much space.
Well, we were just talking about a little bit about grief earlier. So many people, they get stuck inside grief. And how did writing this book become a doorway to healing, not just for you, but for your readers?
Wow. As an aspect of grieving, I put it into a caring for mom. I knew the end was inevitable, and how soon I didn't know, but you're worried about when you're not with her, is she still breathing? Does she need anything? Will she be there when I see her in the morning? So that stress all just kind of weighs on you. But there were a couple of things I did, I think, to help me get through the grief or the grieving at the time. Our adventures that I cover in the book was 3.5 years. And when I first came back, I wanted to return some dignity to my mother. I felt, she was a lady who really cared about her hair and her nails and I think her clothing and stuff. And she had these old tattered night dresses that she wore. She wore no makeup. Her hair was just like in a lifeless bun or maybe a ponytail. I said, that's not going to work for my mom. So I bought her a new wardrobe. That was one of the first things that I wanted to do. And if you want to cheer anybody up at any age, especially a lady, a new wardrobe will do that, and that certainly did. Though it wasn't that much fun for a middle-aged guy to go out into department stores in the ladies section looking for night dresses. I got a lot of strange looks and stuff like that. So I ended up doing it online. It was much more comfortable. But there is a fashion niche that needs to be filled. There's not a lot of good or nice or attractive clothing for seniors. I said I need some nice nightwear because my mom still had pretty good legs at the time. And so I bought things on the short side. I bought some colors that went nice with her complexion. And then I don't know the last time she went to a beauty parlor, but she worked full time and had 6 kids. And my dad was a chemist and he worked during the day. My mom actually worked in the night shift, but she always treated herself to a weekly visit to the beauty salon where she got her hair done and her nails done. And I don't know when the last time that happened. I know when she visited me in Hollywood, I would take her to my friend's beauty parlor in Beverly Hills, and she got the movie star treatment. She got to sit in the seat that Betty White sat in when she had her hair done. And they only met once, but that was pretty cool. But again, I don't know how many years it had been. So I tried to recreate that at home because I knew she would like that. So once a week, she normally got 2 sponge baths a day anyway, in the morning and the evening. But on Day of Beauty, I soaked her feet in Epsom salts while she sat on the commode. I shampooed her hair. Then I gave her a full body massage, tended to any medical things. And she picked out her new wardrobe. Of course, she got a new diaper, and I blow dried her hair, and I put it in a nice ponytail or sometimes braided. Then I did her nails, and then I finished it off with nice red lipstick to match her nails. And I just thought, oh, this was a nice little gesture, no big deal. But I wheeled her into the kitchen in the wheelchair for breakfast, and we pass a big dining room mirror. And I parked her in front of that mirror and I leaned in and I said, "Who is that pretty girl?" And she just beamed. And it was just fabulous. I mean, I didn't think that was any big deal. It's a nice gesture, but boy, that effect was just profound. She loved it, and it probably had a bigger effect on me. And it was also infectious because whoever saw her saw how happy she was. Especially with her new wardrobe and if they caught her on Day of Beauty. But the best lesson of that was wanting to feel pretty doesn't end at 90. And for guys either. My dad was always clean shaven and always, I think he had a comb in his pocket all the time in his wallet. And his hair was always groomed and he was always clean shaven. And 2 days before he passed, we knew that he wanted to meet Jesus and look his best he could. So we gave him a shave. We combed his hair and gave him a shave, and I knew he got a big kick out of that. So it works for men and for women. Yeah, that was a lovely thing, and those are things that only get discovered by doing them. And whether it was necessary or not, it was something that I felt I needed to do and to cheer her up. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So I think if more and more people did a Day of Beauty, even in assisted living or nursing homes, boy, if they had someone come in and do those little things, boy, the effect would be amazing.
you brought up assisted living, and we do go in and entertain in the Texas assisted living centers, and you just gave me a great idea. We do sing-alongs, and we'll do trivia, and we do the best we can, but every single one of our viewers, and we have viewers around the world, are going to be touched and educated by what you're saying. I just know it. I mean, I have tears again. I do want to bring up something, though, and we do talk a lot as speakers about burnout to brilliance. Burnout is an epidemic, at least here in the United States, that's affecting a lot of people, and I'm sure caregivers.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you're running on empty. So
Yep.
what would you say to somebody right now that's saying to themselves, I just can't keep going?
Right. Well, the pros say take breaks. You have to take breaks because you have to be in good shape to take this on. It can be exhausting. So that's a hard lesson that I learned, because I did not take the breaks. I thought, I'm a guy, I can handle this. And the stress got to me. I ended up almost dying before my mom did. I went through 3 emergency surgeries, and I was in the hospital, I think, for a total of a couple of months, not all at once, but within those 3 surgeries. And so that was a tough lesson. So I always tell people, if you're going to take this on, you got to take the breaks. When you're on an airplane and they say when the oxygen masks drop down, put yours on before you help your loved one. And that is very important, because you want to be around, and you certainly want to be in the best shape mentally and physically to take this on. I would also tell people, if you're not comfortable taking this role on, don't do it. Find someone who, either find a pro or another family member who isn't, I guess, not turned off by bodily fluids and all those things, because it does get a bit down and dirty. And that's, I guess, where the acting, again, came into play with me. I kept it out of the room. I didn't want my mother to feel bad about me being there. And feeling guilty that I put my son in this position. I wanted her to know that I was there and willing and wanting to do this. And so I did my best to keep all that stuff out of the room. There were a couple of moments when I had flashes of anger or disappointment, mostly in myself and stuff that came out. But that's what I learned. That's normal in parenting. And so one of the things, my mother hated swearing. And neither of my parents swore. My mother said things like, I'm fed up, or nincompoop, or when she was really mad, that makes me want to spit. I mean, that was furious for her. With my dad, it was like, I think food came to mind. He would say, you're full of soup. Get the ham out of here, and stuff like that. So it's like, or chowderhead. Those were what we grew up with. So when I let out with a few choice words, my mother always said, I don't like you swearing. And I said, I know, Mom, but this parenting thing is hard. And she says, well, I guess. And she had 6, but I never swore. So yeah, she was pretty good at guilt tripping me all the way through.
That's wow. We're getting a lot of good nuggets here. It's golden nuggets. You know what I think it's time for?
The hard question.
The hard question.
Oh!
All right, I need a drink. This is tea. In honor of Mother, I always have some tea with me.
Yeah, I'm going to grab my mushroom coffee.
Yeah. Now.
Oh, can I tell you, before the hard question, can I tell you the reason for the title of the book?
Yeah.
That was going to be a question. Yes, we love it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I had another title in mind while writing. Putting out all the actions and the normal routines we did. Life on the Commode was a big deal for her. And sometimes Mother Nature took a little longer than was comfortable for either one of us. And so one day, kind of as a joke, I just said, hey, would you like a cup of tea while we're waiting? It was her favorite beverage, cup of tea, no sugar and skim milk. And she said, sure. And it became a hit. She really enjoyed it, and so that became part of our daily routine, a cup of tea on the Commode. So I thought, boy, that's, I think, a catchy title. Certainly not one that's easy to forget. So that became the hit.
All right, that's awesome. Now, here we go. The hard question. All right. So here's the scenario. You got the movie deal. Now they're giving you a choice of 3 locations, and it's going to be 3 to 6 months. And you're going to be on site for this, but they're going to pay everything. Where you stay, all your food and beverages. Now here's the 3 choices. Seattle, Texas, or Toronto. But keep in mind, Texas is brisket and steak. Seattle is seafood.
And coffee.
And I don't know what Toronto is. So, it could be a mixture of all that. So where are you going?
Why did you pick those 3?
Well, I'm from Seattle. We're in Texas now.
Yeah, we got
Toronto is usually where they do movies nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of movies. Yep.
Yeah, but I would say, you know what they're doing though? Netflix apparently is building like a $5 billion studio in New Jersey.
Oh, that's a golden nugget, right?
I didn't pick
there.
New Jersey because you would automatically go there.
Yeah.
That's
Oh yeah, it would have to be on the East Coast somewhere. Now, Canada sometimes, because most of this is going to be interior, so that can be done anywhere. So, okay, to help you, so we'll do some of the interiors in Texas for the brisket, and we'll go to Toronto because I used to love Labatt's Blue beer. And then Seattle because I like seafood. So we can do some of the interiors there, but the exteriors definitely have to be in New Jersey.
I love that. His sister, who it's coming up on a year anniversary.
She passed a year ago.
But she lived in New Jersey.
She lived near Absecon.
Yes. And I had the opportunity the first time in my life to walk down the boardwalk.
Atlantic City, and it was amazingly beautiful at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, Jersey is very cool. I think it still gets, well, I don't know. Hopefully it's gaining its respect because a lot of good people, famous people and stuff have come there. Of course, Springsteen and Bon Jovi and Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson and blah, 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 blah. But it's like a mini California. In California, you could go skiing and surfing in the same day. You could kind of do that in Jersey, too. Though it's going to be a little cold with the surfing. So it was, I grew up in a little, they called the Village of Ridge. It was 25,000 people, but it was a great, it was about 20 minutes away from New York City. So that's where I got a lot of my, I guess, culture. My mother was really into the arts. So we would go to Broadway, Radio City Music Hall, and Statue of Liberty, and the World's Fair was there when I was a kid and stuff like that. So it was great. And then, of course, the New York Yankees are there. So, yeah, it was, I was very lucky. And in fact, when this book came out, I do the social media stuff like crazy, and on Facebook, I kept getting suggestions from Ridgewood of new friends, and I have to think maybe half of that town is on Facebook, and they've been very supportive of the book because a number of people knew my parents or knew my siblings, and they just love reminiscing about Ridgewood and how it changed and stuff from what we grew up, and it's been very cool, the reactions from there. And I did a virtual author visit with the public library there in Ridgewood. I think I may have still owed some late fees when I was a kid, but they said they waived that when I did the my little podcast there, so that helped. So that was worth it right there. And I was very fortunate of where I grew up, and then I think the upbringing with my folks and even my siblings and stuff like that. So we learned to care for others and laugh when things got a little tough and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool.
So I want to ask an interesting question, stealing from you, a question that you asked yesterday. But you've had an opportunity. You were in Hollywood for quite a spell, and I have worked with and met quite a few actors and comedians. Was there one that stood out that you thought ahead of time that they may not be the nicest person, but once you met them, they just blew you off your chair as far as being kind?
They were a sweetheart.
Sweetheart? Is there anybody?
I would say no one that surprised me in the positive.
Oh, wow, we've heard that from so many.
Well, no, I mean, there's, again, you may catch somebody on a bad day. I never did, let's say, a long movie with a major star. I did work 3 days with Tom Hanks in Castaway. And everything you hear about Tom Hanks is true. He's delightful. He's just a super guy. But what was interesting with that, so I got hired. It's funny that I live in France, so there's these strange connections in the world. And I tell people usually, like, when you make I think a good decision, the universe seems to support it. And so it certainly helped in my adventures with Mom and the book, and somehow me ending up in France, which is still baffles me. But I replaced the navigator in Castaway. And so I had to look somewhat like him. It ended up being a guy that I knew that I replaced. And so after I passed the first a round of auditions, a producer took me outside and said, "Listen, Mark, you're going to be on what we call a gimbal because you're going to be in the crash sequence. So you're going to be on a roller coaster for 3 days. Can you handle that?" And I said, "I dated a French girl for 7 months. I can handle anything."
Yeah.
And I got him laughing, and I knew I got the part. So I called her after, because I still get some very nice residual checks from Castaway. And this was 26 years ago.
Wow.
It'll be 27 in January. That's when we shot that. And it was just fabulous. And now that girl has also moved to France. So she lives in France. We've been in touch a little bit when she came back here. So that was very funny. But my mom's grandmother was French, or married to a Frenchman. So I don't know if she was married here or married him and then moved to the States. But they named my mom Genevieve. And I always called her Genevieve just for fun, and not thinking, oh, sometime I'm going to be in France or something like that. And so so I think my French ancestors had something to do with me being here. And it's been delightful. People say, "When do you go on vacation?" I said, "I've been on vacation every day I've been here."
Oh, I love that. Wow. Wow.
We just had a great time being with you today, and I'm sure our listeners are just
blown away.
Blown away.
Yeah, so we talked about, the people that have surprised you, and before really getting to know you, I knew that you were going to be fascinating, but I didn't know that you would be such an eloquent speaker and with comedy, and you're so succinct, I guess is the word, and which is a great thing to say, because we have a lot of authors that we've interviewed and that are out there, aspiring authors that want to talk about their books, but they don't have the skill set that you have. And I know acting probably attributes a lot to that. Did you train? I mean, is this just a natural thing for you? How smooth and cool?
Well, thank you so much. The wine has something to do with it. No, I haven't opened a bottle yet. You know what? Yes, certainly the acting, the years of theater training and stuff certainly helped. But I grew up again in a pretty outgoing family and stuff like that. So we were performing certainly in the ballet as kids. I only did it for a few years, but my other siblings did it for most of their lives. And my brother, he and I were the only ones in the ballet studio in our town, and he and his wife have been running their ballroom dance studio for probably over 30-something years. So he kept dancing. And another sister who was a dance major in college, and another sister who went off to start her own dance studio. And wrote a book about it, actually, when I was taking care of my mom, about how to make a great business out of a dance studio, and gave some nice tips how do people, you put all that work and investment, and a lot of people end up with nothing. She actually sold her studio for a very good amount, and nurtured the new owners to make sure that the business still thrived after she left, because she's a big personality and a big reason people went there. So if you put us all in the room, I would be the quiet one. It's just the way it was. I would say that I shine when I get paid. Not that I'm demanding any kind of pay here, but can I tell you one fun story about, again, parenting and the mistakes? Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay, so I had some skills, and obviously with design and stuff, but also renovating houses and building and things like that. And so while I was there with my mom, she was like a baby, so she did sleep a lot during the day. So I said, this house really could use some love and care. So I ended up renovating the entire house during our 3.5 years. And I kept her abreast of what was going on, but it was kind of funny. When I first decided to do it, I would be going past her in the living room because after breakfast, I would sit her in this big, cushy, reclining chair so she could watch the Animal Planet and stuff like that. And so she's in that chair and I'm passing by with 2x4s and she said, "What is going on?" And I said, "I'm making your house beautiful again." She goes, "Well, who is paying for all that?" I said, "You are, so cheer up. You may have to go back to work." And she did that almost every day for about a week. Same conversation because she was losing it a little bit. And so one of the days, I finished the basement. And the last thing to do was the carpet. So I put carpet samples on her breakfast tray. And then I left the room quickly to fill up her juice cup. And I came back and she had one of those 3x3-inch samples in her mouth and a scowl on her face. And I go, "What are you doing?" She goes, "This is not a cookie." And I said, "No, Mom, it's a carpet sample. Which one tastes better?" And she chose well. But the last thing I did is I renovated the upstairs bathroom, which was originally split in two for a boys' side and a girls' side because we had 3 of each. And so I decided to take that middle wall down. It was about 100 square foot bathroom. So I wanted to put a big tub and a shower in there. And so when I finished that room, I asked my mom if she'd like to christen it with a bubble bath. And she said, sure. So I carried her upstairs and I put her in the bubble bath and I took a picture of her. She's, again, just beaming from ear to ear. And the bubbles were strategically placed. And I thought, oh, this is great. She's having the best time. And then she passes out. Uh-oh. And I'm thinking, oh, great. I tried to do a nice thing and I killed my mom. But at least she smelled good. So I took her out of the tub thinking, okay, she had a wicked sense of humor. So I thought maybe she's just pretending. And I'm tapping her on the cheek and nothing. She's gone, but breathing. But I'm panicking. So I take her downstairs. I dry her off, take her downstairs, put her to bed, and I call up a nurse. And she said she fainted because you left her in the hot water too long. So her blood pressure went down. So I stayed with her until she woke up. And about 30 minutes later, she woke up and she remembered the bathroom, but not the passing out. So it was a win-win for Mark. But
win-win for Mark.
That would have been a tough thing to explain to my siblings.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we are out of time and we want to hear any parting words from you. But before you do, I want to read this quote from you because I believe it's just absolutely beautiful. Healing doesn't always look beautiful. Sometimes it looks like laughter in the middle of heartbreak. And that's where humanity shines brightest. Yes.
I wrote that?
Yeah.
Where is that?
I don't know. It was in our research of you.
Wow. I'll take credit. I have no idea, but that's beautiful.
But any parting words, right? Do you have any other questions or?
No, it's been a joy. It's been so much fun.
Wow, I'm in awe.
I mean, if you have anything new that you're working on, you want to publicize or tell us?
Yeah, well, go see the movie when it comes out. The last draft, I took out about 4,000 words before I gave it to the publisher because I thought those would be better in a book that's going to be about my dad. So I'm about halfway through a book that's focusing more on my on my dad. So there'll be some of Mom in there, of course, and similar stories, but from a different point of view. And I hope within the next year I'll be done with that one. The screenplay kind of threw me off schedule because I had to do that over the summer, and I just sent it out recently. So
thank you again, Mark. You have been such a divine pleasure. We sure appreciate you coming on Rockstar Diaries.
well, thank you. It's great to be a rock star, and now Mom's a rock star too. So
Yes, say her name once more the French way.
Geneviève Mary, well, Porro was Brennan. She was an Irish girl. So she's smiling, I know.
Oh, I love that. All right, we're signing off. Rockstar Diaries, healing out loud.
Cedar Ridge Acres. Soap. Why? 'Cause you smell good.
Hi, everyone. You know, I didn't become an international best-selling author, award-winning songwriter, global speaker and coach, and now a TV show host by scrolling all day. Nope, none of that came by accident. It came from intention, from choosing growth on purpose every single day. Even just 10 minutes a day adds up to over 60 hours a year of leveling up your mindset, your habits, and your life. If you are ready to stop watching others live their dream and start building your own, I'm willing to share one of the most powerful tools that I use, created by the #1 high-performance coach in the world, Brendon Burchard. It's called Growth Day. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. And your next level is just one intentional decision away. Bring the joy, everyone. Rebirth, to me, it's a soul quake moment that changes how you see yourself forever. It isn't about starting over. It's about rising from those ashes of who you were, carrying the wisdom of your scars, and stepping unapologetically into the wholeness of who you were always meant to be. It's about stripping away roles, titles, responsibilities to reconnect with who you are at your core. Burnout becomes untapped brilliance, fear becomes a compass, and your story becomes a legacy. That's what rebirth is.